Welcome to Have I Got News for You? I'm Steph McGovern. In the news this week, having lost the right to broadcast several major sports events, the BBC hopes to claw back some credibility by screening this year's Student Olympics. As the UK edges closer to a no-deal Brexit, one British resident suddenly realises he might never see his favourite French poodle again. And after another tense week on Strictly, the house band regret their efforts to help Claudia Winkleman unwind. Tonight is a veteran journalist and broadcaster who says the best piece of advice she's ever been given was, life's not fair, get used to it. So, 2 points to Paul's team. Please welcome Joan Bakewell. And with Paul tonight is a TV presenter of one of our most popular afternoon quiz shows. He also has a season ticket at Fulham Football Club. So for him, weekdays mean pointless, as do the weekends. Please welcome Richard Osman. And we start with the bigger stories of the week. Ian and Joan, take a look at this.
Was that a boo?
Who is it?
I can't possibly say, because there's an injunction.
Oh, go on,
and I know it's been revealed, but I think, you know, some of our distinguished businessmen should be allowed a little privacy. Were you in the House of Lords when he was named?
I wasn't. But
why not?
I was getting ready for this programme. It was in the morning in the House of Lords when Peter Hain revealed who had been the subject of the story in the Daily Telegraph, and it is now a big issue about whether you should be able to buy the silence of people weaker.
And it was in the Telegraph, Britain's top feminist magazine.
But also,
you sometimes do things right.
Neither of you have named him, so we can still get the point.
Yeah, exactly.
It was Sir Philip Green. Sir Philip Green. When I say Sir Philip Green, I mean Sir at time of recording.
Yeah.
Well, I do hope his lawyers, Shillings, really come for you.
Yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Yeah, I'm free next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the news that Sir Philip Green has been named in Parliament as the businessman accused by a newspaper of sexual harassment. I should just say, these are just allegations and Philip Green has denied them. Do you think this is a good use of parliamentary privileges, Ian?
Yeah, I think it's great. I've just changed my mind. No, I was just remembering there was an MP called John Hemming who just used to break injunctions and just shout them out in the middle of debates about completely different things. So they'd be discussing an order bill and he'd shout, Ryan Giggs! It's just incredibly funny. But I know your colleague was more responsible and had a point to make.
I bet he makes very good speeches, Peter Hain. I bet he made that speech with great flourish. What is it about small, fat men?
Any others you want to name?
I've got a little list.
Yeah, I bet you have.
Go on, I want to hear it. This is good.
Well, it could have been a lot of other people, after all. We've all been speculating about who it could be.
Have you? How very irresponsible. And you, a baroness?
I should think Private Eye have been on it since the moment the story broke.
No, we weren't speculating, we knew.
Should we have a look at how Philip Green dealt with awkward questions before discovering super injunctions?
Yes.
It's not a super injunction. It's just an injunction. If it were a super injunction, we wouldn't even be able to say there was an injunction.
It was a...
I hate to show expertise, but I've got a bit of...
Should we have a look at him anyway?
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Questions?
So, Philip, people want to know why you're on holiday when they think that you're supposed to be sorting out the pension deficit.
Will you go away?
Why won't you tell to people?
Will you go away?
I will go away. You can squirt with me water.
Go away.
Why won't you just answer a couple of questions?
Go away.
Have you got a message
Which
for
bit are you not understanding?
Hang on,
go
hang on,
away.
hang on, hang on. There's no need
Just
for
go
any violence.
away.
We're asking you questions.
That's going to go in...
How are you seeing a man with a haircut like that and that not be your first question?
Now, it's been a turbulent year for retailers, so what will John Lewis stop selling from next year?
DVD players. The standard DVD player, they're phasing out.
There are a whole lot of things that are now not being stored
Yep.
in the store, but one of the things that is increasingly popular is the thong.
Yeah,
Did you know that?
I did know that, yeah.
Are you storing them up?
I mean, not at this moment, no.
There is no garment that is more uncomfortable than a thong.
Well, on that basis, and in light of the stats you're talking about from John Lewis, I've got a new game for you.
Yeah.
Hot or not?
Right.
Yeah.
We vote not.
If it's hot, it's gone up in sales. If it's not, it's gone down in sales.
I'm with you.
So you tell me which one it is using the fingers on your buzzers.
Yeah.
All right?
Lovely.
It is.
Trouser
I
presses.
haven't-
I'd say definitely hot.
Yeah.
Not.
They are hot if you turn them on, aren't they?
Yeah, they are hot, yeah.
Yeah. They go with thongs, don't they?
If you put the
Do
thong in
yeah,
it, you
do
can press it.
Do you press your thongs? Hey, you dead posh, you. They're not. They've fallen by 36%.
Yeah, we said that.
Right. Yellow, hot or not?
Yellow?
You can't just
Hot.
sell yellow,
Hot. Oh, yes, you can.
can you?
Yep, it's hot. Sales have gone up by 400%.
What, of just, what,
Yellow thong.
yellow? Like paint or tea towels or
Just anything yellow.
jaundice? Anything yellow?
Door knockers, hot or not?
In Salisbury, not. They're going for handles.
This is the news that Philip Green has been named in Parliament as the businessman accused by a newspaper of sexual harassment. He's known in the business world as King Phil and by people who've dealt with him as someone who's really king greedy, who takes king liberties. Colin Richards, take a look at this.
Ah, yes, the only known footage of woolly mammoths that died out millions of years ago. There's a man digging up the road where they found the remains of a woolly mammoth
Yeah.
underneath some roadworks,
What was he doing there?
waiting for a bus.
Which road was it?
The A14.
Yes, it was.
Is it?
That's amazing.
Who discovered the mammoth?
The man digging up the road.
Yeah, one of the A14 guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The A14 team.
Yeah, one of the team on the A14.
Yeah.
I think it might have been Dean from the team on the A14.
Yeah.
How many of them?
14.
Yeah, it was discovered by road workers on the motorway between Cambridge and Huntingdon. Here are the workers with their find. That looks like a cracking drinking horn to me. How old is the mammoth?
43. Well, it must be thousands, million. I mean, when did they disappear? Hundreds of thousands of years ago. So, yeah, it must be 500,000 years old.
Any guesses, Richard?
400,000 years old.
Woolly mammoths became extinct around 8,000 BC, so they're about 130,000 years old. We have no idea what they look like. However,
We just saw.
Yeah, just someone walking across.
we have no
That
photos
wasn't
of
sooty
them.
and sweet, but you have no photos of them. What was that then?
Shall we see an artist's impression of what they may have looked like?
Yeah.
That's shit, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought they were going to take mammoth DNA and try to recreate one,
Yeah.
so that we bring the mammoth back to the world.
I'll tell you what, if we do mammoth racing, I can finally... My lifelong dream is to be a jockey.
Really?
And, mammoth racing.
What did Google accidentally delete this week?
Was it my search history?
Tax records?
They haven't got any.
Oh, no, they couldn't have deleted them. What did they actually delete? What did they accidentally delete?
To do with roads.
The roads. The M25 was deleted from Google Maps, whatever that means.
It was the M4, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Well,
between the junctions 18 and 19.
Been asking for it, though, haven't it? Never been a great bit of road, that. Not what I call a motorway.
Nah.
Well, according to the Metro, drivers were sent on a 10-mile detour down a country lane, which, on the plus side, it did actually turn out to be quicker. What else was found at the bottom of the ocean this week?
An ancient ship that was actually complete and came from about 2,500 years. It's a wonderful find.
This is fascinating, but not the right answer.
let them go for quite a long time there, didn't they? Hanging themselves with their...
No, that was the most interesting find. It was a Greek trireme.
Yeah, but no one cares.
Yeah.
We care. We care.
No
very-
one cared. God, it's Philistine news.
It's a sea cucumber that's found.
A sea cucumber.
Yeah, or as the Express called it,
Yeah.
a headless chicken sea monster.
Isn't Headless Chicken Monster Boris Johnson's wrestling name?
Do you want to see it?
Yeah, well,
Come
I
on,
think I
then.
should in case I see one and I know what it is.
It's a plastic bag.
Well, it doesn't look remotely like a headless chicken. It looks like somebody mucking around inside a duvet.
What does the headless chicken monster do when it feels threatened?
Does it run around in circles?
It takes refuge in the ship that's down there.
Yeah.
Which no one cares about. Stop going on about it.
What's quite interesting is quite a lot of the goods were left on the ship that they'd been trading. Which indicates quite a broad reach of a mercantile empire about which we didn't really know enough.
The coffee will be cold by now, won't it?
Yeah.
There are traces of the food that they were eating when the boat sank.
Yeah.
Much more interesting than jellyfish.
Anyway, what do they do? What do they do when they feel threatened?
They dig their non-existent heads into the sand.
Close. According to Forbes, when
Yeah.
feeling threatened, some sea monsters can squeeze their agile bodies into small nooks and crannies. A few make their soft bodies go completely rigid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. While
I've been to parties like that.
while others choose to jettison their lungs through their anus.
I've definitely been to parties like that.
What is the monster also known as?
Edith.
It's also known as the Spanish dancer, which explains why Sean Walsh was recently seen buying a scuba diving outfit.
Very unpopular Strictly jokes.
Yeah, they are really unpopular, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, no, Strictly serious.
Ian's never been asked to do it.
That
Fake
explains
news,
a
I was
lot.
asked this very year.
Ian's not good enough to do it.
Why did you turn it down?
Have you not been asked?
Yes, I've been asked,
Oh,
yes.
good. You turn it down?
I couldn't pass the medical.
What did the medical involve?
Dancing, I would imagine.
Snogging outside pubs. Very rigorous.
Why didn't,
Snogging? What is this, 1968? Snogging?
why didn't you do it?
I've been asked most years for a long time. I don't want to do it.
Why?
It's not compulsory, is it?
No, it's not. But
Tonight, dancing a foxtrot, Ian Hislop. With his partner, Pitt the Younger.
Now you're talking.
Yeah, exactly.
why don't you fancy doing it?
I've had enough of judges being rude to me.
What else has been found in the sea?
There was a ship.
That's a bit weird and scary.
Yeah, an octopus that can make its own dinner. Oh, I'm nearly right. An octopus can make somebody else's dinner.
No,
A squid with a gun?
Yeah.
no, it's not as exciting as any of them, I'm afraid.
Oh, no.
It's a massive new iceberg.
Oh,
It's a mile wide, this one. It's called a tabular iceberg.
is that one that's got very straight lines?
Yeah, what's unusual about it?
It's got very straight lines.
Perfect, which means it looks like what?
A very straight line thing.
A tiny rectangle.
A tiny
You can
rectangle,
sit
yeah.
here.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, look at
Oh,
that.
wow.
Should melt quickly, though, because each corner's at 90 degrees. That's terrible, that.
No, it's
I
good.
didn't like it.
It's good. If you hadn't said it like you were issuing a death warrant, it might have worked.
This is the discovery of the remains of a woolly mammoth on the A14. The woolly mammoth is about 130,000 years old, according to scientists, or 6,000 years old and put there to test us by God, according to the DUP. As well as the 130,000-year-old mammoth, workmen on the A14 have also found a 10,000-year-old meat pie, which was reduced to 50p at the nearby service station. Right, here's a bonus question for you.
That's Despots Weekly. Here we are. Two.
Men damaging the world. Yes.
Another one.
3 of them.
More, 5, 6.
Yeah.
There are hundreds of them, Joan.
What we need are women.
What do you want? They can drive in Saudi. One of them was driving the getaway van.
Well, one of them is about withdrawing from the nuclear treaty. That's bad news. The other one's killing journalists. That's really bad news because we're journalists. And the other...
I think that's the important point of the story.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're not journalists.
No.
We're less fussed.
Yeah.
Shall we start with the news that the Saudis have finally managed to do something to upset the countries who sell them weapons? So how did the Saudis try and explain themselves?
Well, they've got a different story every day. It's like the Arabian Nights. Every morning they come up with a new story about what had happened. Originally, nothing had happened, and that he'd left the embassy and he hadn't been killed. The next day they said he'd got involved in a fist fight and had sadly died. Then the next day they admitted that he'd been questioned and someone had tried to restrain him and he'd sadly died.
And then they dressed someone up in his clothes and left the building, and they said, oh, no, you saw him walk away.
Yes.
He wasn't dead at all.
That was the most bizarre element of all. Nobody would be fooled by a man who has more hair coming out of the building than he had going in.
They said he was heading towards Salisbury Cathedral as well.
But yeah, what else did they try to do to cover their tracks?
They sent in someone to clean up the building afterwards. But it is extraordinary that the Turkish government has revealed all this. I mean, when you're being made to look bad in your treatment of journalists by the Turks, you've got a big problem.
This is what tyrants do. Tyrants oppress their people. Some are better at it than others. They're both going strong, aren't they? Bin Salman, Erdogan.
And
But he's new and tyrannical.
He's
Crown
young.
Prince.
He's younger and tyrannical.
And we were told by lots of people he was reformist.
Yes, because
liberal.
he let women drive cars.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but all the women who campaigned for women to drive cars are in prison.
To be fair, though, they did drive there themselves, so it's progress.
Yeah, and as well, that the people responsible for this rogue operation, I mean, just how rogue are they? You know, might any of them be remotely connected to the Crown Prince, you think?
Yes, there's one of his personal bodyguards, isn't there?
Yeah, one of them accompanied him on his official visit to Downing Street this year as part of his personal security team. He's General Mahia Mutreb, there he is, although some people think it's just Johnny English undercover. And Trump is not impressed by the Saudis at all, is he?
He's very straight about it. He says we get a huge amount of money from them. They're our main allies.
But he keeps changing the figure. He started off saying there was 40,000 jobs to be created, then it went to 400,000, then 600,000, and a day later it was over 1 million.
Yeah, should we see Trump explaining about that?
We're talking about over 40,000 jobs.
It's 450,000 jobs. It's 500,000 jobs. 600,000 jobs.
It's over 1 million jobs.
What's the British government's stance on the Khashoggi issue?
They are furious, yet still selling weapons, I think would be the official line.
Yeah, Dominic Raab told The Times, this is a terrible case, but Britain is not going to overreact, especially not with over £1 billion worth of arms deals with the Saudis at stake.
I'm hearing it's over 2 billion.
3 billion,
3 billion
actually.
is it now?
Yeah.
4 billion, they say.
5,
Yeah.
actually.
Really?
Yeah, it's gone up to 7.
Wow. £8 billion.
9, yeah.
Wow.
Did you see how Trump revealed his true feelings about intimidating journalists?
Yeah, he's not very keen on us.
He at a rally, he laughed and joked about a guy, a politician that had body slammed a journalist.
Yeah.
Is that the one you're thinking of?
Yeah. Shall we have a look?
Yes, absolutely.
We endorsed Greg very early, but I had heard that he body slammed a reporter. Any guy that can do a body slam, he's my kind of...
It makes you wonder whether the Prime Minister wouldn't be like to body slam a few journalists or indeed a few members of her cabinet. I mean, people who head up democracies must occasionally think it'd be quite nice to be a dictator.
You've got an evil streak, haven't you, George?
It grows with the years.
Yeah. It's tricky balancing trade deals, though, isn't it, with the morals, the principles. How have the Germans dealt with it?
There's a big conference in the desert with the Saudis trying to raise money, and they pulled out. And Angela Merkel made a statement.
Yep, they've stopped selling weapons to the Saudis completely, and many countries, including Britain and the US, have pulled out of the Crown Prince's Economic Summit in Riyadh on ethical grounds, except which countries?
America?
Italy?
Russia and China. Apparently they've picked up nearly all the unused tickets on Viagogo.
They tried to make me go to Riyadh. I said, no, no, no.
What is the other big Russia news?
The treaty.
Yeah.
Trump's pulled out of it. He's ripped up the Intermediate Weapons Treaty.
Yeah, Donald Trump is pulling out of a 30-year-old arms limitation treaty because the Russians have already violated it. He said, we're not going to let them violate an agreement and go out and do weapons, and we're not allowed to. What does do weapons mean?
That's also the first time he's pulled out of a 30-year-old anything.
Having once met Trump, that just makes me feel a bit sick even thinking of that.
How was it? Did you talk to him?
Yeah, I had to. I was interviewing him. Would have been tricky if I hadn't. He was creepy, man.
What did he say?
He said, you're so beautiful, I'm going to leave the room to make myself look better, because if we do this interview now, everyone's just going to be staring at you and not listening to me. Because he thought that would disarm me. He thought as a female journalist that was the best thing to say to me, rather than, oh, I watched your piece on, I don't know, mobile phone insurance last week. And I thought it was great. So do you know what? My response to him was, love, I've heard better lines than that down Club Bongo. Anyway, we can't blame Trump for pulling out of the treaty, can we?
I'm happy to blame him for everything.
Is there any real point to Russia and America limiting their nuclear weapons, do you think?
Yeah, it worked pretty well. Being part of a treaty means you can try and get the other people involved in it to stick to the treaty. If you rip it up, it just means everyone can start building up arms again.
I mean, it's quite important that we don't have arms building up and building up. There are so many countries now who do have nuclear. Pakistan, Israel, they've got it. They keep quiet about it. If they tear up the treaty, does everyone get left being able to do what they want now? Is that what happened? Because that's disaster. That's chaos. We don't want it. We don't want the bomb. I used to march against the bomb.
How did that go?
Yeah.
Didn't do very well.
The numbers are mad, though, because the Russians are supposed to have 7,000 nuclear missiles, the Americans 6,500, but none of that really matters because Pakistan have enough to finish off the entire planet. Sweet dreams, everyone. Yeah, this is the brutal murder of the Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi, which Western governments have united to condemn in the mildest possible terms. Now, you might think it's not a good idea for us to be joking about the Saudis, but don't worry, because they'll have turned off the minute they saw a woman was in the driving seat. And so to round two, the one-armed bandit of news, fingers on buzzers teams. Yeah. Here's the first one.
Do you know who this is?
It's the Brexit question.
So how close are we now to an agreement on Brexit, according to Theresa May?
95% there.
Yep.
We've agreed everything except the main terms.
Yeah, which, according to Theresa May, is 95%.
But she also is famous for having said it's not agreed until it's all agreed. So, in fact, we've not agreed anything yet.
The European Parliament's Brexit negotiator, Guy Verhofstadt, didn't quite agree with her, did he, on the maths? He said the deal was 0% agreed at the moment. He added, Britain has always had difficulties with the metric system. Andrew Marr asked Dominic Raab an awkward question last Sunday. What was it?
Who are you?
Let's take a look.
Let's have a look.
In your bowels, do you hope for a November summit?
A November summit in your bowels.
Yeah.
That is...
That'd take some organising, wouldn't it? Catering alone would be a nightmare.
Who's been told to tone down their language this week?
Well, all these Tory MPs. Because it actually backfired. They spent Sunday saying she's going to be assassinated and killed, and then everyone said this is really bad taste. So she got a wave of sympathy, so she got away with it again.
Yeah, you're right. Anonymous Conservative MPs who've been using increasingly violent language about Theresa May.
She was expected to face a noose. They told her to bring a noose, and she went there and made a speech, and they all applauded. So
Don't bring a noose. Even if someone asks, don't bring a noose with you. That is asking for trouble.
Ahead of the meeting this week, one of them said she was entering the kill zone. What happened then when she entered the kill zone?
Did they play Laser Quest?
The BBC News said MPs just banged some desks.
Oh, yeah.
At least it was desks, anyway.
They will bang anything, won't they?
What did a lot of people waste their time doing in London this weekend?
Marching.
Is that a question? They wasted their time?
That's what's written down here.
I was surprised that Brexit was still going the day after. People seemed fairly sure it was going to finish. And there were some funny placards, and yet still Brexit continues. So I don't understand what happened.
Yeah, they marched through the capital demanding a new people's vote on Brexit. Speaking to The Guardian, one demonstrator, John Nichols, said, "It was exciting and uplifting, as if the entire clientele of Waitrose had gathered on Park Lane." Who's abandoned the Remain campaign this week to further his own career?
Is it Nick Clegg?
Yes. Where's he going?
He's going to Facebook.
What to do?
Get more friends. It's going to be their global communications chief.
Yeah. Did any of you see the musician Bobby Gillespie on This Week with Andrew Neil?
Yes, and Michael Portillo.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most toe-curling, embarrassing piece of footage we've seen for many a year.
Which we have to show. Let's have a look.
Absolutely.
Like the Skibidi dance challenge bite.
I'm calling on you to say I want you.
We can't tell which is the This Week programme and which is the video. They've merged together.
Give it all to me.
And you ask me why I won't go on Strictly.
This is the government's handling of Brexit, which is going so well. 700,000 people decided to march through London, demanding a second referendum. Organisers denied the march was overly middle class before having a petition delivered to Downing Street by Ocado. Fingers on buzzers, teams. Here is the next one.
There was a cat, an ordinary domestic cat, that was mistaken for a panther.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the cat or the panther. It looks like the panther to me, I would imagine.
Yeah, this is the news that a panther on the loose in Scotland actually turned out to be a domesticated cat. So how did the rumours of a big cat on the loose circulate?
People said, I've just seen a big cat in the moors. It looked like a panther to me.
Yeah, it was residents of East Ayrshire.
Where was this panther?
Johannesburg.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Say that again.
What? Johannesburg.
No, I liked your accent doing it.
Hey, have you been up to the hills lately? There's a great big panther up there the size of a cat.
That was Namibia.
At least I'm trying to get outside my comfort zone, non-dancer.
Residents of East Ayrshire became gripped with terror this week after a picture was circulated online of a suspected wild cat roaming the fields.
Oh, my God. And it's fuzzy round the edges as well. It means it's undomesticated.
Yeah, the local police had to issue a safety warning, but the SSPCA later confirmed that it was just a large cat. What did Robbie Brown decide? Which didn't help to calm things down.
Did he fake some footage?
Close. The 18-year-old welder made a metal cutout of a panther and then took pictures of it in the field to confuse locals. Here it is.
That's good.
It looks like the cat had an injunction, so we could only see a silhouette.
Where was Eric Idle mistaken for someone else recently?
I don't know.
On BBC Breakfast, Eric was being interviewed on the show when this image of fellow comedian Steve Punt was accidentally put up. Do you know what, though? This is still not as bad as the time as we put a gorilla up instead of Nicola Sturgeon.
That was bad.
That was pretty bad, that.
Gorilla was furious.
Why are people in the Netherlands doing this?
Well, it must be. Is that a reference? You mentioned Eric Idle. There must be the Ministry of Funny Walks, Silly Walks, I think it was called, wasn't it? That looks like they're sort of doing that. Is it an anniversary of that or something?
Is John Cleese on tour?
Don't you think they just look hammered?
I hope it's that, and it's not
Is
the rise
the
of
far
the far
right
right.
gaining a disproportionate influence?
No, it's actually in honour of Monty Python. The Dutch town of Spijkenisse has installed a Silly Walks road crossing. Here's the sign.
Very good.
Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Don't you think it just looks like he has a really unusual erection? We're going to stick with mistaken identities.
Yes.
Why were fingers being pointed at Friends actor David Schwimmer this week?
Oh, there was somebody seen on CCTV, it looks like him running off with a bottle of cider or a bottle of lager.
Beer.
A
Beer.
crate of beer.
A crate of beer, Your Honour.
Yeah.
And he really looks like him as well, doesn't
Oh,
he?
yeah,
Brilliant.
properly. Yeah, Blackpool police released the image of a man they suspect of stealing a crate of beer who has a strong resemblance to the actor. So here's Friends actor David Schwimmer and the main suspect in the Blackpool beer theft case. It really does look like him, doesn't it? They released a statement, the police, saying, "We have investigated this matter thoroughly and have confirmed that David Schwimmer was in America on this date." David Schwimmer also provided himself with an alibi by posting this from America. Do you know, over 6 million people have watched that online now, which has got to be his biggest audience for some time, hasn't it? I once got mistaken as a prostitute at Grimsby Fish Market.
By Donald Trump.
I was offered 4 cans of Stella. Honestly, this is true. 4 o'clock in the morning, I was going to film breakfast, and this fella comes towards me with 4 cans of Stella and a tenner, because he wanted me to drink the cans and urinate on him. And he was offering me a tenner for that.
Really?
I mean, if he'd have done 15 and Grolsch, I would have done it.
So what did you do?
The thing is, I got in a taxi afterwards, and the taxi driver said, "Oh, have you had a good morning's work?" And I thought, "Oh, you must recognise me off breakfast." I said, "Oh, yeah, it's gone quite well." And he went, "Oh, because it's been a bit quiet recently, because Sheila said she struggled." Who's Sheila? So, time now for the odd one out round. It's just one between you this week. Fingers on buzzers, team. So your 4 are a 7-foot fiberglass gorilla, Stephen Leake's living room, Helen Mirren, and the 1752 from Paignton to Exeter on Thursday, the 4th of October. Go on.
Well, Helen Mirren is in trouble in Italy because she wanted planning permission for a house and they didn't like it.
Yep.
Now, I suspect that this gorilla, which is intended to be a work of art, is not liked by the people who live in those rather elegant houses behind it.
And what about the train?
Well, I think that's the odd one out, isn't it?
It's interesting, that is actually video footage. It just hasn't moved for the last week and a half. What's the second one?
Stephen Leake's house.
Oh, yeah, Stephen Leake's house in Norwich.
In Norwich?
Someone's objected to all of them except his house.
Yes, very close. They've all been accused of ruining the view, except Stephen Leake from Norwich, who's been helping to enhance it.
I was 95% there.
Yeah.
Once again, we haven't actually had a guess, so I'm going to say... is it Stephen Leake's house?
Yeah.
He has got a rare bird nesting in his garden, so bird watchers from all over the country have been showing up at his house.
Yes.
Now, we would show you a photo, but Stephen's had enough of all the media attention, so we've drawn them instead. According to the Times, the starling has flown 4,500 miles off course, has come inland, and is now living on a housing estate. Don't tell the Mail. How did the 1752 from Paynton to Exeter on the 4th of October ruin the view in the seaside town of Dawlish?
You made a noise like you remembered it.
Yeah, no, I don't think it was this, though. I remember that one where the people are filming, the Flying Scotsman is doing, it does, like, one journey in kind of 10 years.
Yeah.
And these people were filming it, and just as it was about to go past, this train went past the other direction.
Yeah, exactly. Train spotter Phil Shaw waited patiently all afternoon. He'd taken the day off work and everything to get a picture of the Flying Scotsman on its first trip to Devon in more than 15 years. Let's have a look at what happened. According to Phil, someone behind him said, "Oh no, the train is coming," and then there was a communal sigh. Right, so staying with nice views, why did Stuart Slicer get ridiculed for a picture he'd bought in an auction recently?
Is it a painting of a bridge?
Yes.
So I won't spoil the... because it's very funny.
Yeah, Stuart told the Mirror he bought a picture of the Forth Bridge at a charity auction after having a couple of sherbets. He continued, "I genuinely thought that I would bring it home and the wife would be all right about putting it up. But she said to me, 'That's not going up on the wall.' Let's see why." Yeah, they've all been accused of ruining the view, except Stephen Leake from Norwich, who's been helping to enhance it. Residents of Dawlish have complained that a 7-foot gorilla on a nearby crazy golf course appeared to be staring into their homes. One local resident who didn't want to be named said, "I'm not sure what's worse, its staring eyes or its bum." Which is what Susanna Reid says every morning in the studio. Time now for the missing words round, which this week features as its guest publication the Teesmouth Bird Club newsletter. And we start with giant inflatable what stolen from Kansas City Hospital?
Nurse.
No.
Bird, giant inflatable bird, pigeon, wren.
Giant inflatable colon stolen from Kansas City Hospital. Obviously.
It's a punctuation theft.
This is the theft of a giant inflatable colon used by a hospital in Kansas for educational purposes. Dr. John Ashcraft says the 10-foot-long inflatable colon is a great conversation starter. What is wrong with "do you come here often"? Next. If you want to see a what on Teesside this weekend, then bringing what is highly recommended.
Is it if you want to see a hell of a sight on Teesside this weekend, then bringing 4 cans of Stella is highly recommended?
If you want to see a woolly mammoth on Teesside this weekend, then bringing in a woolly mammoth is highly recommended.
If you want to see a green woodpecker on Teesside this weekend, then bringing strong boots or Wellingtons is highly recommended.
Yeah.
Don't you think green woodpecker, though, sounds like Pinocchio's STD?
I do now.
Next, what could be the surprise ingredient to make cement stronger?
I know this one, because I do it often. It's honestly just a little bit of chilli. Absolutely does the trick.
How often do you make cement?
Well, just as a starter. You wouldn't have it as a main.
It's a bit heavy for a main, isn't it?
Yeah, you wouldn't have it as a main.
Carrots could be the surprise ingredient to make cement stronger.
OK.
Yeah, researchers at Lancaster University have discovered that adding carrots to cement mix could create a stronger and more environmentally friendly building adhesive. Now, the carrots used to make the concrete are supplied by Cellucomp, a Scottish company. Honestly, the lengths those people will go to avoid eating vegetables. Next, almost anything is possible when what in autumn?
Love is in the air.
Brexit is scheduled.
Almost anything is possible when bird watching in autumn. This is an article in the Teesmouth Bird Club newsletter, and on the same page is an advert for the Breeding Birds of Cleveland. Now, I'm guessing that is a book and not a structured reality series. Mind you, that one where Robin gets off with Jay behind Martin's back is a real shocker. Next. School bans bags, so boy turns up carrying books in what?
Pelican.
School bans bags, so boy turns up carrying books in a microwave.
Well, you know what? It means you read them quicker.
Yeah, this is schoolboy Jacob Ford, who found a creative way to get around a ban on students carrying bags. Here he is. I mean, it helps, doesn't it, if it's a microwave? So when his classmates give him a wedgie, they stop when the timer goes off. And finally, Andy Batty, crowned champion at annual what competition in Derbyshire?
Crown champion in annual Do You Behave in a Way That Your Surname Suggests? He beat Colin Taciturn in the final. Hilary Sillery came third.
Colin Taciturn hasn't talked about it yet, has he?
No. Very true to form.
Andy Batty, crowned champion at annual bowling competition in Derbyshire. Bowling is the art of mimicking the bellow of a rutting deer.
That's something you wouldn't want to do too often in a forest at night, is it?
The annual bowling championships took place this week. Shall we have a look at some of the runners and riders? Doesn't he just sound like he needs more fibre in his diet?
Who judges this competition?
The rutting deer. Whoever wins, he has to sleep with it.
So the final scores are in. Ian and Joan have 6. Paul and Richard have 7.
No. Well done.
And I leave you with the news that at the Vatican, during a meeting with his cardinals, Pope Francis starts to have a sneaking suspicion the communion wine's been spiked. In Ukraine, there are further doubts about the quality of Russia's spy training as their top agent in Kiev carries out a Novichok attack. And in London, the BBC is criticised for airing the least surprising episode of Who Do You Think You Are? Good night. When I interviewed Trump, I was specifically told, don't ask him about his hair. And also told, don't ask him about his ex-wife. So I made my final question, what does your ex-wife think about your hair?